All right, hold on. So stupid. Here we go.
All right.
Welcome to the FanDuel Punch Out. I'm Jason Gilbert, JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay, taking a look at today's 5-game slate here on FanDuel, and it's not a pretty one.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has some redeeming qualities, but it's certainly not the full package.
No, I mean, everyone likes a full package, right?
Yeah. Not like we don't want UPS to send us half the package or 3/4 of the package. We want the entire package undamaged, especially if it's fragile. So, we did not get the full package today. There's some class in there. You hear some little shards shaking around, so it's unfortunate, but we'll get through it.
No, we should probably stop talking about packages and more so on baseball. And plug into Max Scherzer here on FanDuel leaves you with 29.38 left over per position, which is doable on this slate. And I think that's kind of where you're going to find the comfort range for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I think you just throw that in cash no matter what. I don't see a need to do Lester and even Matt's. His floor isn't high enough to where I'm willing to pay down in cash, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's not a huge price difference either.
Right.
So, looking at catcher here, and a little bit different. Obviously you got Wilson Ramos, who's on a tear, hitting, pretty well this season. And you look at Ray, I mean, he struggled against righties. 3,400. I don't mind him. It's not a bad price tag. It's not really knocking you down either.
Yeah, 3,400. I'm much more okay with this than TK is 4,600. I think you can fit this in. I think you can make this work if you really want to pay up for him. So I think that's definitely in play. Salvador Perez definitely in play. And I mean, we sort of talked about the Mets on DK, but they're both really cheap. Whoever's in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those Mets guys are kind of the guys to punt to. David Ross at 2,200. We'll be talking about a lot of these Cubs guys 1 through 9 and kind of mainly focusing on that back half of the lineup against Neeson. And Ross would be just kind of that punt option.
Right.
As well. So I think, overall, I mean, you're not necessarily killing yourself by going with a Ramos or a Victor Martinez or a Perez, but if you want to kind of pay up and get that next tier at some of those other positions, you kind of need to pay down there.
Right.
So first base here, and this one, I mean, Anthony Rizzo at 3K, this is a complete game changer.
You have to do it.
What the hell happened? 3K, when did this happen?
Oh, I mean, lefty on lefty?
No, I have no idea what's going on, but for me, I'm plugging Rizzo in regardless. I mean, the guy can handle lefties. Yeah. It's no problem for me.
No, I'm not saying that as a reason to fade. I'm saying, could that possibly be why?
But it's solely based off fantasy points per game. I mean, that's really what it's been. I don't know what's going on, but Rizzo 3K that's an
so
easy
which is weirder, Kiki at $220 or Rizzo at 3K?
Definitely the $220, but this is
disagree.
Odd.
No,
this is odd.
Yeah, no, that's definitely odd, and obviously, I think you just go 100% Rizzo here, right?
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? I mean, you're around guys like Gonzalez and Zimmerman who have been a little bit more inconsistent, and Rizzo at 3K. And obviously, I'm not really paying up for a Miguel Cabrera or a Will Myers or Freeman in those matchups. So,
right.
Yeah, they make it kind of easy here to kind of lock in Rizzo. And I think you're going to see Rizzo and Scherzer be the starter of, if that's your starting lineup to kind of work around.
Yeah, and I mean, cash, there's a realistic chance Rizzo could be like 70 or 80%. So I think you just throw it in there and don't worry about it. For tournaments, I don't even see differentiating yourself being a strong move here. Sometimes it's good to be different, but when you start to be too different and then you got a chain and a nose ring and dirty jeans and then you have a basketball jersey on, you don't need that many different things. Sometimes you can just be normal. and Anthony
Clearly,
Rizzo's pretty
we know
normal.
how you dressed back in high school. I mean, that's pretty much what you described, right?
No comment.
With your Western Mass basketball jersey.
Oh my god. That have been passed down for like 3 generations. We've been wearing the same jerseys for 40 years.
If I'm swerving, I think it's going to be for kind of a stack situation. I don't think the Nationals are a bad stack. I mean, they've scored some runs out there in Petco so far this series, and so I think that's kind of the only way I look at it, or an Eric Hosmer, Kendrys Morales as far as a Royals stack. But outside of that, it's going to be completely Rizzo, 80-90% of my lineups tonight.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a delightful surprise to see him down there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, Nice has been average against lefties in the past and low strikeout rates, so you're firing him up.
Yeah.
Looking at second base here, and this one, Ben Zobrist is at a nice price tag. Once again, trying to get some Cubs exposure. 3,400, I like him quite a bit. A little bit cheaper than Murphy and Kinsler. And kind of we were looking on DK. I mean, those Dodger bats are still cheaply priced here, but you got some other guys now a little bit closer to that range.
And Kendrick isn't as much of a value just because 31 on DK, but 3K here. So obviously there's big price differences. I'm still looking at him. I still like him as a value, but not quite as much, especially with Zobrist right there. I think you just plug Zobrist in. I do like Neil Walker, but he's more of a swerve off of Zobrist. And obviously Daniel Murphy. I love Daniel Murphy, so you can throw him in there whenever he's in the lineup, especially against a weak pitcher like Colin Ray. So, yeah, definitely down for that. But I think the cash move here is Zobrist, and as you're starting to see a Cub stack form here pretty quickly, you know.
Yeah, definitely, and I do like Kendrick at 3K and Scooter Gannett as well as 2,900 is a kind of a swerve off of some of those names. And outside of that, I can't really see using anyone else down below. There's no one really worth punting for me, and I don't think you necessarily need to. I think given Rizzo's 3K, that's your big superstar to build around. There's some other really nice price guys in that 33K to 3,400 range, and I don't feel the need to really spend up.
Definitely agree there. And yeah, I just mentioned Murphy out there just to say be different in the tournament, but yeah, definitely in cash. No need to sort of swerve, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at third base here, and I think if Chris Bryant's in the lineup, he's kind of that top play at 3,900. A little bit different here because you don't really have a couple of guys that are eligible, like a Javier Baez at third base in comparison to DK. Right. But you do have a couple of guys like Anthony Rendon who's starting to hit the ball a little bit better. I don't mind him at 3,200. I'm not really afraid of Petco Park and taking guys there on the opposing teams.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely with you on that. Turner definitely in my sights, and that another 3K range guy that isn't killing you for salary and obviously in a good spot in the lineup. And I know you don't you weren't a fan on DK, I don't think, by your grumble, but Hernan 2,300. I might throw him in there just to maybe get a Daniel Murphy in there if I'm not going Zobrist or something like that.
And I think I prefer Kelly Johnson at 2,100 just to get some lefty exposure against Aaron Blair and for a little bit cheaper price. So I think that's kind of where I was leaning and why you heard the grumble on my end.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's respectable. I like that call.
Well, good. Tip of the hat to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah, yes. I have the mustache, so I'm feeling polite today.
Justin Turner, I mean, I'm curious to see his ownership. I mean, he's starting to really hit the ball a lot better. Obviously, come off a 2-homer night, I think you're going to see his ownership be pretty high. I'm not completely banking on that to really happen, but there is a possibility against Chase Anderson, who's allowed a 352 WOBA to right-handers since 2014 in his home run.
Not a strength of his, that's for sure. Turner finally turning it around. The optimizer was telling us that this early season slump wasn't real, and it's truly coming around now. So if you've played with our optimizer, then hopefully you're really reaping some returns within the last few weeks.
Yeah, Turner's been hitting well. I mean, as you mentioned, you do the cafe value articles more than anyone, and
Yeah,
you and Turner are quite close.
he's been in there a lot, let me tell you. Like pretty much every Dodgers slate. And I mean, now we see why, like he, much like last year, he's turning it around and becoming what, kind of averaging out, regressing to the mean of what he actually is as a player and hitter. So yeah, makes sense. Worked
Yeah, I
out.
mean, hitting the top of the order as well. I mean, Dodgers haven't really given up on him or dropped him any lower. So you always want a guy who's going to be putting that production of scoring plenty of fantasy points.
Right.
So looking at shortstop here, and this one, Corey Seager, 3,600, not a bad spot for him. Is he kind of your top player, or do you prefer that as Drupal Cabrera, Javier Baez range?
That's tough because I like Bays too, but I think you can sneak Seager in there, especially with a guy like Kelly Johnson at 21 or something like you mentioned there. So I think you can do it. It might make things a little tight on the rest of the positions though, so I don't think you have to force it. And again, by Bays and Cabrera are strong moves, and then I think Bays is sort of the third of four cogs in that Chicago stack with Zobrist and Rizzo. I mean, that's super reasonable for them.
Oh, definitely. I completely agree. And I like those names that you mentioned. And spinning down, I mean, I like Alcides Escobar, 2,600, hitting the top of the lineup. I mean, he isn't a guy who he doesn't leave you with zeros, which is nice. I mean, he's going to be a guy who gets on base once or twice a game, and hopefully a little bit more tonight, just because against Boyd, and you're expecting the Royals to put some runs up against him in a pretty moderate fashion.
Yeah, Addison Russell in that same way, but I like Bays better, obviously. But I think in that same way of a Cub stack, if you're trying to be different, you can throw Russell in there. I'd imagine most of the ownership would be with Bays, though, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, for me, I mean, Bays has handled lefties a lot better than Russell has, so I think people are going to look into that, and at a similar price, I think that's what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to outfield here, and one, you don't really have a ton of expensive-ish options.
Hold on. That silence by me and that sort of hesitation by Jason is just, there's just nothing for shortstop below. Like,
yeah, it was kind of that was a weird transition over.
No, but it's because, like, I'm sure you were looking too, and I mean, we already looked it over, but there's just nothing there. So unless you want to play Jordy Mercer versus John Lester, and if you do, good luck with that. So on to outfield.
Yeah, and so I mean, I guess the question is for you. I mean, could you see yourself paying up for a Bryce Harper at 4,200 tonight?
I think it's conceivable, but I don't think it would be too comfortable in terms of lineup construction. So yeah, in tournaments, if I'm going to be making a few here, but he wouldn't be in my first lineup. I think your main chalky move is to do this Cub stack, and I don't even feel bad about it. And I'm throwing it in cash and not giving it a second look.
Yeah, and I think Harper, I mean, 4,200, it's not a bad price tag for him. In consideration, I think you can work him in. You're also sacrificing maybe a Zobrist, and maybe
exactly.
a different shortstop, and kind of punting down more towards the other outfielders. So for me, it's all about going balanced, I think, tonight. And spinning down, I mean, I really like Lorenzo Cain for 800 less at 3,600, getting lefty there. He's probably one of my favorite outfielders above 35K.
Yeah, and I think these if you do go him, I think you can go Ben Revere as well. And he's only 3,200, so I think that's a decent value, and then you get some exposure to that Nationals offense. But as we mentioned, Conforto 3,200 as well. I kind of like the Mets, Nationals, and Cubs are kind of the ways I'm looking tonight. So if I can get exposure to those teams, especially in the outfield, that's what I'm going to be trying to do here.
Yeah, I agree. And two other guys, I mean, I like Fowler as well and Whit Merrifield, both at 3,400, both at a really nice price tag. And I think spinning down weight, I mean, going lower, there really isn't a ton in the outfield that I like. I mean, usually Jeff Francoeur is the guy you look for against lefties, but not against Mats. It's not really an intriguing matchup for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, unless it was rookie year Jeff Francoeur where he was batting 450 and just crushing the league, but I don't think that's what we got here anymore. So, yeah, probably a fade.
Yeah, and I mean, outside of that, I mean, you can look at. You mentioned Conforto at 3,200. I mean, digging down below, it's all about kind of just what pops up as far as when lineups come out. I mean, you might see some other guys. You might see a Deaza slip into the lineup. You might see
Michael Taylor, maybe.
Yeah,
like that.
Right. You might see some of those guys come into the lineup here, and that would offer up kind of a nice value.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm with you. I think that 3K, 3,400 range is kind of where I'm going to be sitting for the most part today.
Mm-hmm. Since Rizzo, you aren't scared off by Rizzo, is Hayward's price scaring you off against the lefty?
He comes in kind of far below on the Cubs list, so he won't make that stack for me. He won't make the list of Cubs to be in my lineup. I don't mind it. So if you are going in a different direction, I don't mind that either at that price.
So a basic Cub stack for a second here: Rizzo, Zobrist, Bays, and Fowler. Right? I think that's what we're going with here.
That's my preferred. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Unless Brian somehow slips in, you can punt down towards.
Right.
It's all going to be about that. But I think value-wise, that's where those names are kind of where I'm looking towards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement on that. And I think so. If you plug those four in and Scherzer, you still have 2,700 left over. So I mean, you got a punt or two, and then you're right back to 3K. So yeah, I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. That's going to wrap things up here with the FanDuel Punch Out. Be sure to check out WFantasyCafe.com for all our great tools and content.